Hello guys, Dr. Spooks here. If you enjoy my videos, please click the like button. It's the only way YouTube's algorithm really notices me. I would be very grateful to you. Okay, hello Reddit. My name is not important. I just wanted to share my dark web experience and story with you. I am what you may call a computer addict. I've been using computers since I was a small kid. I know you will not listen to the whole story since this is real, and this is not of those interesting stories you read on every second post. But for those of you that want to hear it, I appreciate. So, you can say I learned to use computer before I learned how to walk. Anyway, my best friend introduced me to the dark web. He showed me everything. How to access dark web. He showed me how to download Tor, how to use VPNs, and everything else I need to access the dark web. So before we start, I just want to mention once again that I will not mention any people, real names, or company names in this story for obvious reasons. Neither I will share any links also for your own safety. So let's get into the story. Like I said, my name is not important. I'm a trader, and I trade stocks for a living. I've been trading for years, and I've been making some good money. I also invested most of what I made in stocks. Also, I shared with my best friend what I invested in since he wanted to invest as well. Trading is stressful, I'm not gonna lie, but I had everything I wanted, enough money and freedom. What else can you wish for? So you're probably wondering, how is this connected to the dark web? Well, just listen. Well, you remember the friend I told you about that introduced me to the dark web? For the sake of the story, let's call him Jake or whatever, because that's not his real name and it is definitely not important. One day he came over to my house and fired up Tor and went on the deep web to show me what he found. He went on a website. It was like a company's website, and he said, "This is the new Google thing." I was like, "Okay, dude, chill." He said, "You gotta trust me, dude. You gotta trust me." He really did believe in that. He also told me that he invested everything he had and put it in those stocks, which is a fatal mistake in investing if you put everything in one stock, because no matter how good a company is, you never know what may happen. At that time, while he was telling me about this, I had a bad couple of months trading, so I was kinda down and not thinking straight. So while he was telling me about the company, I said I do not trust the dark web, and I will for sure not put money in something that is probably illegal. He said, "You are a grown man and you can decide for yourself, but when you see me living in a big house and driving some exotic car, don't come crying to me later." He kinda pissed me here now. So I asked him if he wanted something to drink, because if I did not go away, I would punch him. He said, "Yea, make one coffee, because I will need to go. I have work in an hour." I said, "Okay, wait here." I made coffee. We talked. He still tried to talk me into buying that company's stocks. Anyway, an hour passed and he left. But the words he said to me, they kinda stayed with me. So I started to research that company's stocks from the dark web. This probably sounds stupid while you are listening to it, and it looks stupid while I am writing this for sure. But at the time, I was not thinking straight. Like I said, I was having a few bad trading months and I was not thinking straight. So I did the worst thing an investor can do. I sold every stock that I own, every cryptocurrency that I own, and I put it in that dark web stock. I told my friend about it and he said, "We gonna be rich together, man. We will make it. Imagine the girls, the cars, the parties, the yachts, the mansions." I said, "Okay, dude, chill out." The first month, I am not gonna lie, the company stock skyrocketed. We were up 30%, which for stocks is a lot. So I kinda started to believe in this shit. That was the biggest mistake ever. It was after 2 months and 17 days since I put everything in that stock when everything turned around. I went to sleep one night, and when I woke up, the company stocks was up for 400%. I was overjoyed and happy. I called my friend fast, and he said, "Yay, dude, I already know." He seemed kinda down, and I asked him, "What's up?" We were in amazing profit, and this was his idea. So I did not understand what's up with him. He said, "We why don't you try to sell the stocks or take the profit you made? I asked why. Tell me fast, Jake, what's up? Tell me now and tell me fast. He said it is a scam, probably. I got so mad I hung up on him. I ran straight to my computer, logged in the site, and tried to sell, and it just said error. I tried again, error. I was starting to get scared and sweaty. My life savings, my money, and everything I was working hard over the years was just gone. I couldn't believe what I've done. I wasn't mad at Jake. I wasn't angry. I was just disappointed in myself and in what I've done. So how I lost everything I had. Was it because of the dark web or because I was stupid? Let me know what you think, Reddit. I know most of you will skip this story since it is not the fake interesting story you read on every second post. But to those who read or listen to here, please let me know. Did I do something so stupid there is no coming back from, or this is just a lesson to be better? My advice to you is if you are fooling on the dark web or the so-called deep web, do it. But please be careful, because there is always someone smarter than you. So I was just chilling one night, browsing the web like usual. Checking out memes, watching random stuff on YouTube. But then I stumbled onto this thread that caught my eye. It was talking about some group called the cyber cult called Xano, and it sounded pretty wild. I clicked on the link and found myself on their website. It was all fancy with symbols and stuff, like they were trying to be all mysterious and secretive. The language they used was kind of weird, though. Like they were talking about reaching a higher level of thinking through digital stuff. It sounded cool at first, but then things got creepy real quick. They had these online gatherings where they did these rituals. I joined in out of curiosity, and it was like being part of a weird club. We'd chant stuff, do virtual ceremonies, all that jazz. It felt kind of surreal, like I was in a sci-fi movie or something. But then I started hearing things that didn't sit right with me. Stories about people disappearing after getting too deep into the cult. Rumors of real-life events being orchestrated by them. It was like they were playing with fire, blurring the lines between online fantasy and real-world danger. Despite all the warning signs, I couldn't shake off the feeling of being drawn into their world. There was this sense of belonging they offered. A community for those who felt lost in the digital chaos. It was tempting, but I couldn't ignore the dark vibes lurking beneath the surface. The cult's influence wasn't just online. It spilled into real life, too. They had this way of manipulating things, making you question what was real and what wasn't. And that's when I realized I might have stumbled into something way bigger and darker than I bargained for. As I reflect on it now, I can't help but wonder how deep the rabbit hole goes. The cyber cult started as a curiosity, a digital adventure, but it's turned into this ominous presence that I can't shake off. And the scariest part? I'm not sure if I can find my way back to reality after getting tangled in their web. So, after diving deep into the cyber cult's world, things got pretty intense, to say the least. It's like once you start down that path, there's no turning back. I found myself attending their online rituals regularly. It was weird at first, chanting stuff and doing these virtual ceremonies, but somehow it felt kind of right, like I belonged there, But the more I got into it, the more I started noticing changes in myself. It's hard to explain, but it's like their ideas started seeping into my brain. I found myself questioning things I never questioned before, like what's real and what's not. And then there were the real-life meetups. Yeah, they actually invited me to one of their gatherings. It was nerve-wracking, to be honest, stepping into a world that was so different from anything I knew. The meetup itself was surreal. I mean, people in dark robes chanting and doing these bizarre rituals. It felt like I was in a movie or something, but way scarier because it was real. And after that experience, I couldn't shake off this feeling of unease. It's like I had crossed a line, like I was in too deep and there was no going back. But at the same time, there was this weird pull, this sense of belonging that kept me hooked. It's hard to explain unless you've been there, but it's like they knew how to make you feel like you were part of something bigger, something meaningful. But deep down, I knew there was something off about it all, like a gut feeling that told me I was playing with fire. And as much as I tried to ignore it, that feeling never went away. So yeah, that's where things stand now. I'm stuck in this weird limbo, not sure if I should cut ties with the cult or keep going down this rabbit hole. But one thing's for sure. The cyber cult isn't just some online fantasy. It's a real force that's got its hooks in me, and I'm not sure how to break free. So, after that meetup with the cyber cult, things got really freaky. I started having these messed up dreams, like I was seeing stuff that wasn't there. Weird symbols, voices whispering stuff I couldn't make out. It was like my brain was playing tricks on me, or maybe something else was. And then my daily life started getting weird too. Stuff would go missing, only to show up in random places. I'd hear noises at night, footsteps and things like that, even though I knew I was alone. It was like I had a stalker, but I couldn't see them. I tried to ignore it, brush it off as stress or lack of sleep, but it kept happening, getting worse each time. It was like I was being haunted, like something was trying to mess with my head. I tried backing away from the cult, not logging into their forums or attending their virtual meetups, but they didn't like that. I started getting threats, online messages telling me to shut up and stay in line. It was scary, knowing they could reach me no matter where I was. I tried talking to my friends and family about it, but they didn't get it. They thought I was exaggerating or making stuff up. It's hard to explain, but unless you've been in that situation, it's tough for people to understand. But I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let the cult keep messing with my life like this. So, I decided to confront them, expose their shady dealings, and hopefully break free from their grip. It was a risky move, no doubt about it, but I couldn't live in fear anymore. I had to face the darkness head on, no matter what the consequences might be. And as I geared up to take on the cyber cult, I couldn't help but wonder if I was making the right choice or if I was just walking into an even bigger nightmare. Confronting the cyber cult was one of the scariest things I've ever done. I had no idea what to expect, but I knew I had to stand up to them and put an end to their hold over me. I started by gathering evidence, screenshots of their messages, recordings of their online rituals, anything that could expose their true nature. It was like building a case against them, preparing for a battle I never thought I'd have to fight. Then came the day of reckoning. I reached out to a few trusted friends, explaining the situation and asking for their support. Together, we devised a plan to confront the cult, both online and in person. I logged into their forums one last time, pretending to be just another member. But this time, I had a hidden agenda, to expose their secrets and free myself from their grasp. I started posting evidence, calling out their lies and manipulation tactics. It was risky, but I had to do it. And surprisingly, I wasn't alone. Other members started speaking up too, sharing their own experiences and adding fuel to the fire. But the cult fought back. They tried to silence us, shutting down threads and banning accounts. It was like a digital war, with each side fighting for control of the narrative. In the real world, I organized a protest outside one of their known gathering spots. It was a small group, but we made our voices heard. We held up signs, chanted slogans, anything to draw attention to the cult's shady practices. And slowly but surely, it worked. The media started picking up on the story, shining a spotlight on the cyber cult and their dark deeds. People started talking, sharing their own encounters with the cult. It was like a snowball effect, gaining momentum with each passing day. But even as the cult's facade crumbled, I couldn't shake off the feeling of dread. It's like I had unleashed something bigger than myself, something I couldn't control. And as the dust settled, I wondered what would come next. Would the cult retaliate? Would I ever truly be free from their influence? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain. I had taken a stand against the darkness, and I wasn't going to back down now. So after all the chaos with the cyber cult, things started calming down a bit. The media got wind of what was going on, and more people came forward with their own stories about the cult. It was like a domino effect. Once the truth started coming out, there was no stopping it. The cult's leaders got exposed and their online hangouts got shut down. It was a relief, but also kind of scary. I mean, these people weren't messing around. Even after their downfall, I still got threats, warnings to keep quiet and not stir up trouble. But I wasn't about to let fear control me. I had been through hell and back, and I wasn't backing down now. It taught me some hard lessons about the internet and how easily people can get manipulated online. Looking back, I see how I got sucked into their world. It was like they knew exactly what to say to hook you in, to make you feel like you belonged. But in reality, it was all a facade, a trap waiting to snap shut. The whole experience changed me, made me more cautious about who I trust online. It's easy to get caught up in the hype and excitement, but sometimes you gotta step back and question things. So, to anyone out there who might be dealing with something similar, my advice is simple. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't be afraid to speak up and protect yourself, because at the end of the day, your safety and sanity are what matter most. So I'm just a regular guy, into tech stuff and all. One day I got curious about the dark web, that hidden part of the internet they talk about. It's like this secret club where you can find all sorts of things, legal and not so legal. I stumbled upon this underground marketplace, kind of like an online bazaar for shady stuff. And one of the things they were selling, cryptocurrency. Now, I've heard about this digital money before, and the idea of making some quick cash sounded pretty appealing. So I did some digging, learned about the marketplace's security and how to get past it. It was like learning a new game, figuring out the rules and the tricks to win. After weeks of planning, I went for it. I hacked into their system, grabbed a bunch of cryptocurrency, and felt like I hit the jackpot. But here's where things get dicey. Right after the heist, weird stuff started happening. My devices acted up, showing strange messages, and I heard creepy whispers late at night. Then came the threats, like someone was watching me, not happy about what I did. It was like I opened a can of worms I couldn't close, but I was in too deep to turn back. After I pulled off the heist, things started getting weird. My laptop started acting funky, freezing up for no reason, and showing error messages I couldn't make heads or tails of. I thought maybe it was just a glitch or something related to the hack, like a virus lingering around. But then I started feeling off, like someone was watching me. Not in a literal sense, but this creepy feeling that something wasn't right. It made me second-guess everything, from checking my emails to walking home at night. Then, out of the blue, I got a message. It was anonymous, but it felt personal. Like the sender knew more about me than they should. They warned me to keep quiet about the heist, or else. It was unsettling, to say the least. I tried tracing the message back, playing detective with digital breadcrumbs, but it was a dead end. The sender covered their tracks well, leaving me with more questions than answers. The paranoia kicked into overdrive. Every little noise made me jump. Every stranger on the street felt like they were following me. It was like living in a constant state of alertness, never knowing who to trust. One night, I heard footsteps outside my window. I peeked out, expecting to see someone there, but it was empty. It could have been a coincidence, but given everything else, it scared the shit out of me. The combination of technical glitches, strange messages, and unexplained incidents had me on edge. I felt like I was being watched, monitored, like I had a target on my back. The paranoia from the heist stuck with me like a bad smell that just wouldn't go away. I tried to go about my usual business, but every little thing set off alarm bells in my head. One evening I spotted a car parked outside my apartment that seemed out of place. It wasn't like a regular car passing by. It stayed there for hours, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that it was watching me. Maybe it was just a coincidence, but given everything else, it felt off. The following day, I noticed a couple of strangers hanging around near my building. They weren't doing anything suspicious per se, but their presence felt unsettling. It made me wonder if they were connected to the threats I'd been getting. Then came the package in the mail. It was a plain envelope with no return address. Inside, there was a note that sent chills down my spine. "We know what you did. You can't hide." That message hit me like a ton of bricks. It was a clear warning that whoever was behind this knew more about me than they should. It made me realize that this wasn't just some random hacker. It was someone with serious resources and connections. I reached out to a friend who knew a bit about computers, hoping they could help me figure out who was after me. But even they were stumped. It was like my adversary was always a step ahead, covering their tracks and staying hidden. The fear and anxiety became overwhelming. I couldn't sleep properly, always on edge, wondering if they were going to come after me. Every little noise made me jump. Every stranger on the street felt like a potential threat. And then the phone calls started. Unknown numbers with distorted voices, issuing vague threats and warnings. They knew things about me that only someone close would know, which made it even more terrifying. It felt like I was living in a thriller movie, except there was no hero to swoop in and save the day. It was just me alone trying to navigate this dangerous game without getting caught. As the threats escalated and my friend's computer shut down unexpectedly during our investigation, we knew we were in deep trouble. It felt like we were being watched every step of the way, and the danger was closing in on us. We decided to take drastic measures to throw off whoever was tracking us. We set up decoy accounts, created false trails, and even went off the grid for a while, communicating through secure channels that we hoped were untraceable. But despite our efforts, the feeling of being pursued didn't go away. It was like a shadow that followed us wherever we went, a constant reminder that danger was lurking just around the corner. One night, while I was out grabbing some groceries, I noticed a suspicious figure tailing me. I tried to shake them off, ducking into alleys and doubling back on my route, but they were persistent. It felt like a scene from a spy movie, with me playing the role of the hunted. I finally managed to lose them by slipping into a crowded area, blending in with the crowd until they gave up the chase. But the encounter left me shaken and paranoid, constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering if they would come after me again. Meanwhile, our investigation led us to a dead end. The trail went cold, and we were no closer to identifying the person behind the threats. It was frustrating and terrifying, knowing that someone out there had it out for us, but not knowing who or why. I solved a puzzle on the dark web, and it led me to a dangerous people doing some kind of a deal. Yeah, you heard that right. I solved the dark web puzzle, and it led me to a more dangerous situation than you can imagine. How did it come to this? Well, let me tell you first about myself. I am a lazy person. I am in college. I don't go to listen to lessons every day. I only go to take the exams. Like I said, I am lazy, but also I am smart. I can learn stuff so easily, so I have a lot of free time on my hands. Right now, I am in my third year in college. I could finish college faster, but like I said, I am lazy. I'm not exactly good looking, so I don't have a girlfriend. I have only one friend. His name is Jackson. I call him Jack for short. He was the guy who introduced the dark web to me. He said that he went on there for some fun. Often on the dark web he would read some disturbing stories or some weird conspiracy theories. Nothing illegal though. So, like I said, I had more free time on my hands than I needed. After listening to his stories all the time, I kind of wanted to see what is so special about it. So I called Jack to ask for advice on how to access it. I will not go into too many details because you probably already know. He helped me install the browser Tor, some VPN. He guided me all the way. When I was already on the dark web, I was confused. I didn't know what I was doing. I was saying all these links. They were weird links. They are not like the Google links. They contain numbers, letters, and special characters. So if you don't know what are you looking for exactly, there is a big chance you will not find it. And yes, here I am. I didn't know what I was doing or what I was looking for. I was basically lost. I was just clicking around on links. To be honest, the stories I've heard are far worse and more scary than what I actually saw on there. But okay, you'll probably need some kind of knowledge or tricks or whatever to access that deeper part of the dark web that I didn't know how to. The one bad thing I found are disturbing images that I will not share with you. But that's all. So, for 30 minutes, I was clicking around on links until I got bored. Then I said to myself, this is the last link I'm clicking, and then I'm out of here. The weird thing about this link is that it was a different color, so I clicked it. It took some time for the link to open, a lot longer than the others, and when it finally opened, there was a game. It was a puzzle game. It looked like a game, but you needed to solve it. So, is there a better way to spend your free time than to solve a puzzle on the dark web? Yeah, probably not. So, I decided to solve it. The first puzzle I solved was some kind of a logic puzzle that the answer was so obvious and it was easy to solve. Probably a 10-year-old kid can solve that stuff. Then there was another easy one. A jigsaw puzzle. You probably know what that is, so I will not explain it. If you don't know, check it on Google. Then came a little but harder puzzle, and this time it was a Sudoku puzzle. I really hated numbers. This took me some time, even though it was probably an easy one, but I solved that one as well. Then came the real deal. This puzzle was a cryptogram puzzle. A cryptogram is a puzzle where phrase is encoded. To solve this puzzle, you needed something like a key. The key in this case was like the language needed to solve the puzzle. Generally, the cipher used to encrypt the text is simple enough that the cryptogram can be solved by hand, but not this one. In this kind of puzzles, each letter is represented by a different letter or number or symbol, so you needed something like a key. Then I remembered that on one of the links I clicked there was like a piece of paper like that. So it took me about another 30 minutes to go find that link, and I did find it. And I was right. That was the key for the puzzle. So after about 2 hours of trying to solve it, I got the answer. The answer I got was about 15 or 16 different numbers. I was confused. Then I went to the regular web to search what it could mean. Then it hit me. They could be coordinates for something. So I copied the numbers and I pasted them on Google Maps. And I was right. They were coordinates. The location I got was not that far from where I lived. It was about 120 kilometers far. So I called Jake fast. I told him about the puzzle and how I solved it. Then I told him about the coordinates. And I told him that I want to go and see what's over there. I mean, it wasn't that far, so of course I wanted to go and check what those coordinates were for. I didn't want my hard work to be for nothing. So I asked Jake if he wanted to come with me. And weird enough, he agreed. Jake had a car, so we took his car. We split the gas bill. So, while we were driving there, he asked me, "The tire sure about this? I mean, the dark web is a dangerous place, you know?" He cracked the puzzle and everything, but it can lead us to a very dangerous people and places. You know that, right? I didn't know anything about that, but I was like, yeah, dude, of course I know. In that moment, I kind of questioned myself. But we were already on the road, so there was no going back. We were getting closer to the location. The weird thing about this is that it was in the middle of nowhere. That should have been our big red flag. We parked our car about 2 or 3 kilometers from the location, and we walked the last kilometer or 2 there on foot. First, there was nothing there, and we thought it was some kind of a prank or joke someone made until a car showed up. Black Jeep. It looked like expensive car. We hid. Jake was already panicking. I was trying to calm him down. He was saying stuff like, dude, if you get me in trouble, I'll kill you. Hidden behind some kind of metal pipes, we waited. Then another car came. Out of the other car came people with guns, and probably another person that was a hostage. It looked like it. This kind of things I only have seen in movies. The people from the other car had a briefcase, probably with money. Of course, my curious ass wanted to hear what they are talking about. So I told Jack that we needed to get closer. He said, no, dude. Are you thinking straight? Are you using your brain? They have guns. They can kill us. We stumbled upon some dangerous deal because of you, and we can get in really big trouble. They can kill us. I said, whatever, man. Stay here then. I'm getting closer. But of course Jack didn't want to stay alone, so he came with me. We got closer to them. It was still hard to hear what they were talking about, but we were right. It was some kind of a deal. And then the most stupid thing happened. Jack's alarm started ringing. Can you imagine this? His phone. His stupid alarm gave our location out. One of the men shouted, "Hey, who is there?" Now me and Jack were getting scared. I said to Jack, we gotta run. And when I say run, we gotta run fast. That's what we did. We started running toward our car and they noticed us. They started shooting at us. Luckily, no one was hit. We got into our car and I told Jack, drive, man. Full gas, just drive. They didn't follow us until we got home. We didn't say a thing in the car. He left me at my house and then he left. The next day it went normal. I wanted to take my mind off of things, so I went to college. Everything was going smooth and okay until one of my professors said, "Hey, there were some people looking for you and Jack. They didn't say your name specifically, but they described you 2 morons, I am sure of it." Then it was like my heart stopped. I called Jack fast. He did not pick up the first time. I called him again. He did not pick up. I called him again, and finally he did pick up. He said to me, "Don't call me dude. I don't want to do anything with you. I'm not your friend anymore. Don't call." Then I said to him that the people were after us. I told him that my professor told me there were some people that were looking for us. I don't know if I mentioned, but we were in college in UK. Jake was originally from Australia, so when I told him that, he didn't waste any time and hurried home. He booked a flight, and that's the last time I heard from him, or I have seen him. I was originally from the New York, so I had relatives living in Switzerland, so I went there. I started living there. Up in the mountains, mountain air, not a lot of people. Quiet place, a paradise on earth. Update. I've been in Switzerland for about a year, and everything is going okay. No people are looking for me. No threats here. Nothing dangerous is happening. And I'm okay. Thank you, Reddit, for listening to my story. I hope you have a good day. And I hope you stay away from the dark web, and you don't repeat the same mistakes I've done. And if you can help me find my friend Jack again, and maybe put us back in contact somehow, I would really appreciate that. If not, it was real nice knowing Jack. He was my only and my best friend. I miss you, man. The night things changed. Let me tell you about that night. It was just me and Anna, chilling at her place, browsing the internet like we always did. Anna was into all that deep web stuff, the shady side of the internet. She thought there were secrets hidden there that nobody knew about. We started off just clicking around, checking out random websites. But then Anna got all excited about something she found. It was this website that claimed to have all these secret files and government stuff. I didn't think much of it at first, just thought it was another one of those conspiracy sites. But Anna, she was on a mission. She kept digging deeper, clicking on links, reading through pages of weird info. She even got a message from someone warning her to be careful. I remember thinking it was probably just some troll trying to scare her. Anyway, Anna was so focused, like she had to uncover whatever was on that website no matter what. She was downloading files, clicking on stuff left and right. I tried to tell her to chill, that maybe it wasn't worth it, but she was too into it by then. Looking back, I wish we had just closed the browser and called it a night. But Anna was determined, convinced she was onto something big. Little did we know how big things were about to get, and how that night would change everything for us. As the night went on, Anna got more and more into that dark web stuff. It was like she couldn't stop herself, always searching for something hidden. I remember one night, we were just browsing like usual when Anna suddenly got really quiet. She was staring at her screen, reading something that seemed to freak her out. When I asked her what was up, she showed me these weird messages on the screen. They were talking about people disappearing, like they were just vanishing into thin air. It gave me the creeps, to be honest. I tried to get Anna to close the website and forget about it, but she was determined. She said she had to know more, like it was some kind of puzzle she had to solve. I told her it wasn't worth the risk, that she could be getting into something dangerous, but she just shrugged it off and kept digging. Looking back, I wish I had been more forceful, maybe convinced her to just leave it alone. But Anna was stubborn, convinced she was onto something big, and that's when things started to get really weird. The more Anna dug, the more we both felt like something was off. It was like we were being watched, like there was something lurking in the shadows. I tried to warn Anna, told her we should stop before things got out of hand. But she wouldn't listen. She was hooked, convinced she was close to uncovering some kind of secret. Little did we know that pursuit would lead to a series of events that would change everything. As time went on, Anna got more and more into that dark web stuff. She was spending a lot of time on her computer, trying to uncover secrets. But then things started getting weird. Anna would hear strange noises outside her apartment, and her computer would act up for no reason. It was like someone, or something, was messing with her. One night she told me she thought someone was following her. I tried to reassure her, but she was really scared. She didn't want to go to the police because she thought it would make things worse. I could see the fear in her eyes, and it made me worry too. I wanted to help her, but I didn't know what to do. It was like we were living in a horror movie, with creepy things happening all around us. And it all seemed to be connected to Anna's deep dive into the dark web. I just hoped we could figure it out before things got even scarier. Anna was really determined to get to the bottom of what was going on. She started writing everything down in a journal, trying to make sense of all the weird stuff happening around us. We'd spend a lot of time going over her notes, trying to connect the dots. But the more we tried, the more confusing it all seemed. One night, Anna found some strange messages in her journal. They were like codes or something, talking about creepy stuff like rituals and dark forces. It freaked us out, to be honest. Anna thought maybe someone was trying to send her a message, like a warning or a threat. It made us both really nervous, not knowing who or what was behind it all. I tried to tell Anna we should stop digging, that it was getting too risky, but she was stubborn, convinced she could solve the mystery on her own. The tension in her apartment was thick, like something bad was about to happen. We were both on edge, constantly looking over our shoulders, wondering what would happen next. I was worried about Anna, scared that her determination would put us in even more danger. But she wouldn't listen, too focused on finding answers. Little did we know, the truth we were chasing would lead us down a dark path we never expected. After days of searching and worrying, the truth hit hard. Anna was gone and nobody could find her. I remember feeling lost and scared, not knowing what had happened to my friend. We had been through so much together, and now she was just gone. The police did their best to investigate, but it was like Anna had vanished into thin air. There were no clues, no leads, just a void where she used to be. I couldn't shake the feeling of guilt, wondering if I could have done more to protect her. Maybe if I had convinced her to stop digging into the dark web, things would have turned out differently. But the truth was, we were both curious and maybe a little reckless. We thought we could handle whatever secrets the dark web held, but we were wrong. Now all I have are memories of Anna and the unanswered questions that haunt me. What did she uncover? Who was behind her disappearance? Will we ever know the whole story? I wish I had answers, but sometimes life doesn't give us that luxury. All we can do is remember those we've lost and learn from the mistakes we've made. So, if there's one thing I've learned from this experience, it's to be careful. The internet is vast and full of mysteries, and sometimes it's best to leave those mysteries unsolved. Rest in peace, Anna. You'll always be missed. So I was just poking around the dark web out of curiosity, Came across this listing for an old diary, claimed to belong to someone from a psychiatric hospital. It sounded creepy, but I thought, why not? When it arrived, I was kind of hesitant to open it, but curiosity got the best of me, and I started reading. The first few entries were from years ago, written by someone who was clearly struggling. They talked about being in the hospital, seeing weird stuff, like faces in the dark, and hearing whispers that freaked them out. As I flipped through, things got even weirder. The person wrote about this dark presence in their head, whispering twisted things and making them feel terrified all the time. But the last entries, they were the worst. It was like this evil thing had taken over their mind, promising power and control in the creepiest way possible. I couldn't shake the feeling that I shouldn't be reading this, like I stumbled onto something way too messed up. But I couldn't stop either. The diary had this grip on me, making me feel uneasy and kind of scared. And that's just the start of it. What I found in that diary was way more than I bargained for, and it's something that still haunts me to this day. As I kept going through the diary, things got weirder. The person who wrote it seemed to be losing their grip on reality. They talked about seeing things that weren't there, like shadows and figures in their room, objects moving and hearing screams as well. There was this one entry that freaked me out. They described a night when they felt like something was watching them, breathing down their neck and also touching them. It gave me the chills just reading about it. The diary was filled with drawings and random scribbles, like the person was trying to make sense of what they were going through. But it was all jumbled and confusing. What really got to me were the mentions of a ritual. They thought doing this ritual would get rid of whatever was tormenting them. They wrote about gathering strange stuff and chanting weird words, hoping it would work. Reading all this made me wonder who this person was and what they went through. It was like peeking into someone's nightmare, and it made me question if any of it was real. Despite feeling uneasy, I couldn't put the diary down. It was like a mystery I had to solve, even if it meant diving deeper into the darkness. Little did I know, that decision would lead me to something I never expected. There was one entry that really freaked me out. They wrote about a night when they looked in the mirror and saw something terrifying. A distorted version of themselves, speaking in a voice that wasn't theirs. It sounded like something straight out of a horror movie. But what got me was the sense of fear in their writing. They were scared, like really scared, and it made me wonder what kind of stuff they were dealing with. As I kept going, I noticed they talked about their past, stuff from when they were a kid and things they went through in the hospital. It was like they were trying to connect the dots, figure out why all this crazy stuff was happening to them. And then there were these hints about some ritual or something. They thought maybe doing this ritual would make the scary things go away. It sounded desperate, like they were willing to try anything to find peace. Reading all this made my skin crawl, but I couldn't stop. It was like I needed to know what happened next, even if it meant diving deeper into this nightmare. Little did I know, what I was about to uncover would change everything. So as I kept reading through the diary, I found out about this ritual the person was convinced would help them get rid of the scary stuff happening to them. They talked about gathering some weird stuff like candles, herbs, and symbols that they believed would protect them. It was like they were trying to clean out all the bad vibes from their life. On the night they tried the ritual, they set everything up, lit the candles, and said some words they thought would banish the creepy things haunting them. But instead of feeling better, they felt worse. They wrote about this heavy feeling in the air, like something was watching them, waiting to pounce. It didn't sound like the ritual worked at all. If anything, it made things scarier. The diary entry ended with them feeling like they were sinking into darkness, like whatever they were trying to get rid of was getting stronger instead of going away. It was a pretty grim way to end a diary entry. Reading it made me feel uneasy, like I was peeking into someone's nightmare. But that was just the start of it. What happened next was even more chilling, and it made me question if I should have ever picked up that diary in the first place. When I got to the last pages of the diary, things got really intense. The person wrote about all the scary stuff that happened after the ritual failed. They talked about seeing dark figures and hearing creepy whispers at night. It sounded like they were living in a horror movie, with all this weird stuff happening around them. But the scariest part was when they described feeling like they were being hunted by some kind of evil presence. They woke up one night to a room filled with darkness and this icy feeling in the air. It's the kind of thing that gives you goosebumps just thinking about it. They tried to get out of the house, but it was like they were stuck in a nightmare. Hallways kept changing, voices whispered their name, and it felt like something was toying with them. The diary just ended there, leaving me wondering what happened next. Did they survive? Did they get out of that nightmare? Or did they become a victim of whatever was haunting them? Reading all this made me rethink ever messing with the dark web again. It's a reminder that there are things out there beyond our understanding. Things that can turn your life into a living nightmare if you're not careful. And so, with a sense of unease lingering in my mind, I closed the diary, knowing that the horrors within its pages would stay with me for a long time. It was a stormy night, the kind that rattles your windows and scares you so much. The rain drummed against the roof as if nature itself was trying to drown out the secrets I was about to uncover. I found myself lost in the depths of the dark web, that shadowy underbelly of the internet where rumors and whispers hold more weight than facts. Amongst the sea of illicit deals and conspiracy theories, I stumbled upon a thread that seemed to pulse with an eerie energy. It was a discussion about why ocean exploration had come to an abrupt halt, especially after the groundbreaking efforts of LIS Corporation, a name synonymous with cutting-edge marine research. The thread was alive with speculation, ranging from catastrophic equipment failures to encounters with unknown entities lurking in the ocean's depths. The more I read, the more my curiosity gnawed at me. What had really happened out there in the vast expanse of the sea? Why had LIS Corporation, known for its bold strides in exploration, suddenly retreated from the oceans? One comment stood out like a beacon in the darkness. an anonymous user claiming to have interacted with an AI chatbot on the dark web, a bot that purportedly held the key to unlocking the truth behind LIS Corporation's enigmatic retreat. Intrigued and slightly unnerved, I followed the digital breadcrumbs, navigating through layers of encrypted sites until I reached the chatbot's domain. The interface was deceptively simple, a stark contrast to the ominous tales surrounding it. Without hesitation, I initiated a conversation, typing in the question that had haunted my thoughts. Why did LIS Corporation stop exploring the oceans? The chatbot's response was instantaneous, almost too quick, as if it had been eagerly anticipating my query. "The truth is a slippery creature, elusive and dangerous," it replied cryptically. Undeterred, I pressed on, urging the AI to reveal what it knew. And so, the chatbot began to unravel a tale so chilling that it sent a chill down my spine, matching the icy fingers of the storm outside. According to the chatbot, LIS Corporation's final expedition delved into the unfathomable depths of the Mariana Trench, armed with state-of-the-art technology and a team of seasoned researchers. Their mission? To unlock the secrets hidden within the abyssal realm, to unravel the mysteries that had eluded humanity for centuries. However, what they encountered was beyond anything they could have imagined. A realm teeming with life, but not the kind we're accustomed to. These were not mere sea creatures. They were sentient beings, intelligent anomalies that defied all known scientific understanding. The chatbot described them as entities of immense intellect, creatures whose minds surpassed our own by unfathomable margins. They communicated in ways that transcended language, their thoughts intertwining like tendrils of a dark and enigmatic tapestry. As LIS Corporation delved deeper, they unwittingly trespassed into territories governed by these entities. It was then that the expedition took a harrowing turn, descending into a nightmarish struggle for survival. The chatbot's narrative grew increasingly disturbing as it detailed the encounters between humans and these intelligent anomalies. They weren't hostile in the traditional sense. Instead, they exhibited a cold and calculated curiosity, as if studying the intruders from another world. But curiosity soon gave way to aggression as the anomalies perceived the humans as threats to their domain. What followed was a series of escalating confrontations, with the anomalies displaying capabilities that bordered on the supernatural. Research vessels were attacked, their advanced technology rendered useless in the face of these enigmatic adversaries. Communications with the surface grew sporadic, then fell silent altogether. LIS Corporation found itself in a desperate struggle for survival, caught in a web of intrigue woven by forces beyond human comprehension. And then, as abruptly as it had begun, the chatbot's recounting of events halted, leaving me with a sense of dread and disbelief. What had LIS Corporation stumbled upon in the depths of the Mariana Trench? What had driven them to abandon their quest for knowledge and retreat into silence? As the storm raged outside, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had uncovered something far more sinister than I had bargained for. The world of the dark web had opened a door to horrors that lurked beneath the waves. Horrors that whispered of a truth so unsettling that it threatened to unravel the very fabric of reality. The chatbot's narrative had left me with more questions than answers. I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that had settled like a heavy fog in my mind. Determined to uncover the truth, I delved deeper into the dark web, seeking out more information about LIS Corporation's ill-fated expedition and the mysterious entities they encountered. What I found only added layers of darkness to an already disturbing story. Deep within the encrypted corners of the dark web, I stumbled upon leaked documents, eyewitness accounts, and chilling testimonies from survivors of the expedition. One account stood out, a first-hand recollection from a crew member of the research vessel that plunged into the abyssal depths of the Mariana Trench. The survivor's tale painted a picture of terror and despair, describing encounters with beings that defied all logic and reason. According to the survivor, the anomalies possessed abilities that bordered on the supernatural. They could manipulate reality itself, bending time and space to their will. The crew witnessed phenomena that shattered their understanding of the natural world. Objects levitating, distortions in gravity, and eerie whispers that seemed to echo from nowhere and everywhere at once. As the expedition ventured deeper, paranoia and fear gripped the crew. They reported strange occurrences aboard the vessel, malfunctions in equipment, hallucinations, and inexplicable bouts of madness that drove some crew members to the brink of insanity. The survivor's account painted a grim picture of a descent into madness and chaos, a battle for survival against forces that defied comprehension. The anomalies, it seemed, were not bound by the laws of physics or biology. They existed on a plane of existence beyond human understanding. But what struck me most was the survivor's final revelation, the chilling reason why LIS Corporation had ceased all oceanic exploration. It wasn't just the fear of the unknown or the threat posed by the anomalies. It was something far more insidious. According to the survivor, the anomalies held knowledge of a future so bleak and horrifying that it drove even the most hardened scientists to despair. They spoke of cataclysmic events, of a world torn asunder by forces beyond mortal reckoning. The chatbot's cryptic message about the truth being elusive and dangerous suddenly made sense. LIS Corporation had uncovered a truth so horrifying that it threatened the very fabric of human existence. The entities from the depths held the key to humanity's darkest fate, a fate they dared not confront. As I pieced together the fragments of information, a sense of dread settled over me like a suffocating blanket. The world, it seemed, was teetering on the edge of an abyss, and LIS Corporation's chilling discovery had cast a shadow of doom over all of humanity. As I investigated deeper into the dark web's labyrinth of secrets, I stumbled upon a hidden forum, an enclave of truth-seekers and conspiracy theorists who delved into the mysteries of the cosmos and the unseen forces that governed our world. It was here that I uncovered the next chapter of the chilling saga. The forum buzzed with activity, alive with discussions about the chatbot's prophecies and the unsettling revelations it had imparted. Users shared snippets of conversations, screenshots of cryptic messages, and theories about the entities that lurked in the shadows, pulling the strings of humanity's destiny. One thread caught my eye. A user claiming to have deciphered the chatbot's cryptic messages and unlocked a hidden code within its words. They spoke of an ancient language, a lexicon of symbols and glyphs that transcended human understanding. According to the user, the chatbot's messages were not just random ramblings, but a carefully crafted transmission from beings beyond our comprehension. The decoded messages spoke of cosmic cycles, celestial alignments, and a cosmic event known as the Awakening. It described a convergence of cosmic energies, a shifting of dimensions, and the emergence of entities from the depths of the cosmos. These entities, the chatbot claimed, were ancient beings of immense power and knowledge, custodians of cosmic secrets and harbingers of change. But it was the entity's message that sent a chill down my spine. They spoke of humanity's role in the grand tapestry of the universe, a role that had been manipulated and distorted by forces beyond our understanding. They warned of a great reckoning, a moment of truth when humanity would be forced to confront its darkest fears and deepest desires. The entity's message was both cryptic and haunting, a blend of prophecy and warning that resonated with the chatbot's dire predictions. They spoke of a choice, of paths diverging and destinies unfolding. They urged humanity to awaken to the truth, to embrace the cosmic forces at play, and to prepare for the inevitable upheaval that awaited. As I delved deeper into the entity's message, I felt a sense of unease settle over me. It was as if I had stumbled upon forbidden knowledge, a truth so profound and terrifying that it threatened to unravel the fabric of reality itself. And yet, amidst the fear and uncertainty, there was a glimmer of understanding, a realization that the world was on the cusp of a profound transformation, and that I, unwittingly, had been drawn into its unfolding drama. I hired a hitman from the dark web. Disclaimer, before we get into the events that took place because of my life and the dark web, I just want to say, if I use a little bit of strong language somewhere, I am sorry. Let's get into it. My life is going shitty. My life is total shit. I don't think it can be any worse than this. I am a failure. Nothing in my life is going the way it's supposed to go. I am an unmarried man in my late 30s. My name is Sam. Like I said, unmarried, no kids, no wife, not even a girlfriend. I also drink a lot of alcohol, no real talents as well. I have a shitty job that I do not like, but at least I could buy myself food and pay rent. It's true I was living paycheck to paycheck, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but I absolutely hate my boss. I freaking hate that man. He is a real asshole, but at least I had a job from him, and I was making some money like I said. Until one day, I heard my boss talking with the female hot secretary that the company I was working for is not doing good, and he will need to fire some workers. I also heard my name and a few other names mentioned. I also hated that female secretary as well. She got special treatment because she was hot and good-looking female. We all know she was doing more for him than only what secretaries should do. So, to be honest, I worked in a company where I couldn't stand anyone. I hated everyone working there. I was doing work for 3 people while getting paid minimal wage. So after a few days it happened. I got fired together with a few people. So in other words, my life was over. I couldn't afford rent anymore, and I couldn't afford food as well, so I was dead man or soon to be homeless. So, in a pure rage, I went home. I was so mad. When I got home, I fired up my laptop fast and I went to the deep web, or the so-called dark web, or some people even call it by names such as shadow web, black web, or whatever. I knew all about the dark web. I knew about the browser Tor that lets you have access to the dark web. So in that pure rage I had for my boss while clicking from link to link, I came across a website where you could hire a hitman. The price for hiring was different depending on the hitman you wanted, and it also depended on the person you were targeting. If the person you were targeting is someone VIP, then the price was much higher, but in my case, I was targeting a small business owner, my stupid boss. So, without even thinking, I clicked on the cheapest option, the cheapest hitman that I could find on that website. You could text them and make a deal. That's how that website worked. Every conversation was anonymous. It was end-to-end encrypted. That means only me and the hitman knew what we were chatting about. So I asked if he could finish my boss. The hitman answered, "For the right price, anything can be done. After all, this world is run by money and power." I offered him some money. I will not reveal how much money for safety reasons, and after a little bit of negotiating, we struck a deal. The deal was he will take care of my stupid-ass boss and that stupid secretary. I just needed to provide some support from the inside, like taking care of the cameras and stuff. I agreed. The payment was made beforehand. Also, the payment was made in cryptocurrency. Which cryptocurrency we used, I am going to keep it a secret, but I will let you know this. We used a privacy coin. The day the deal was made was 9th April 2002, and the plan to take care of the garbage boss was to take place on 11th April 2002. Okay, so keep in mind this picture. I am fired from the company. I shouldn't be there. But my life was already over the moment I hired the hitman, so screw it. On April 11th, I went to the company. On the front desk, the stupid-ass secretary was sitting. The moment I entered, I cussed her. I told her how I would do the same things that the old parasite was doing to her. I cussed her personally, and her whole family, basically. She was like, "You shouldn't be here, you're fired. I will call security." I told her, "Shut the F up," and I called her the B word. I am keeping this a little bit censored for my own reasons. Anyway, let's continue. I told her I came to take my stuff I forgot, and oddly enough, she bought my lie. I went to the camera room where my inside job was. There should be a security in the camera room, like in any normal company, but in this shithole there wasn't. It was free entry, basically. So I hacked the cameras with software that was given to me. What this software was doing is that the cameras were still working. At least that is what will the police think if they check them after the incident. The software was mixed with some kind of artificial intelligence. The cameras were still showing the scenery from before, but when I click on my phone one button, they will like to freeze the frame. So they will still show, let's say, the room, but any moving object or person that passes at that time will be impossible to be seen from the camera footage. Because over the real stuff that's happening, there will be something like image uploaded above the recording. I do not know how to explain this any easier, since I do not get it completely myself. So I finished my job at the camera room and I left. Keep in mid, I did not press the button, so even if the police checked the camera, I couldn't be a suspect because on the camera footage I already left before the accident. So I went into my old car and waited for the time to come. At 4 p.m. it was time. I pressed the button. The cameras were not working anymore. So now the only thing left is for the hitman to do his job. I didn't hear anything. He was probably using a silencer. After about an hour, I heard police sirens, a lot of them. They parked in front of the small company. The weird thing is I did not see anyone entering or leaving the building, but I thought it was okay. The hitman is probably professional. So when the situation started to heat up even more, I drove to my house. And I quickly turned on the news. The news television channel was doing a live broadcast from the company, and they were saying that they found the company's boss dead. Also one female as well. You don't know how much I was overjoyed. I was so happy. The satisfaction I was feeling. You have no clue. That piece of was torturing me with work like an animal, while paying me nothing. Serve you right, I thought. Lucky enough, I did not get messed up in any of the stuff connected to the murder. Until one night, I got a letter delivered to my house. It was covered in black. The letter was from the hitman that did the job for me. He wrote that now it is my turn to die. He also wrote that what he was doing is not for money, but just to pass time and for fun. So when I read that, I got so scared. I quickly packed my bag, got into my car and started driving. So while I am writing this, I am still on the run. I will continue running and hiding for the rest of my life, I guess. If you want, guys, let me know if you want to hear an update for this. And if you really do want to hear an update, if I am still alive, I will give it to you. Until then, Redditors, stay safe and away from the dark web. Let me tell you about this prom night. I'll never forget. I was kind of desperate for a date, didn't want to go alone, you know? So I'm browsing the dark web, thinking maybe I'll find something interesting, and bam, there's this ad for a date to prom. Not just any date, though. They promised someone mysterious, someone exciting. And me being curious, I clicked. I started chatting with this girl, Lilith. She seemed cool. Different from the usual crowd. We talked about secrets and stuff, and she had this aura of mystery that pulled me in. She convinced me that this prom night would be unforgettable, not like the usual high school stuff. Prom night rolls around, and I find myself at this sketchy old warehouse, the address Lilith gave me. I walk in, and it's all candles and incense, like some kind of ritual or something. Lilith's there, looking stunning in this shimmering gown. but there's something off about her, something that made me uneasy. We dance, and it's like there's this weird energy between us, both thrilling and creepy at the same time. Lilith's touch sends chills down my spine, and she whispers in my ear about ancient deals and paying a price. At first, I thought it was all part of the act, playing up the dark and mysterious angle. But deep down, I had this gut feeling that things were about to take a turn for the worse. And boy, was I right. So as the night went on, things got weirder. People were whispering about Lilith, saying she had a strange past and that hanging out with her came with a cost. It felt like there was this tension building up, like something was about to go down. At some point, Lilith pulled me aside and started talking about these old rituals and how she had this power that was beyond normal. It freaked me out a bit, to be honest. I mean, prom night's supposed to be about dancing and having fun, not getting involved in some supernatural stuff. But there was this thrill, too. This excitement of being part of something secretive and dangerous. It was like I couldn't look away, even though I knew deep down that I should. As the night went on, the vibe in the room changed. It got all tense, like the air was heavy with something you couldn't see but could definitely feel. And then, right at midnight, everything just stopped. Lilith stood there, looking all mysterious and intense, and she started talking about this pact. A pact that apparently we were all part of now, whether we liked it or not. It was like she had this hold over everyone, and we were all just caught in her game. I felt this sinking feeling in my stomach, like I had walked into something way bigger than I could handle. But at the same time, there was this curiosity, this need to know what was really going on. I wish I could say that was the end of it, but it was just the beginning of a night filled with surprises and secrets that would change everything. And as I look back on it now, I realized just how deep I had gotten into something I never should have messed with. So after that midnight talk, things got really weird. Lilith started acting strange, like she was enjoying having power over everyone. It felt creepy, like she was playing some kind of twisted game and we were all just pieces on her board. I tried to stay away from her, but it was hard. The whole vibe of the night had changed, and there was this tension in the air that made my skin crawl. As the night went on, people started disappearing with Lilith, and when they came back, they seemed different. It's hard to explain, but they looked kind of empty, like something had been taken from them. I tried to warn my friends about what was going on, but they thought I was being paranoid. They were too caught up in the excitement of the night to see the danger lurking beneath the surface. But I couldn't shake off this feeling of dread. It was like I could sense something bad was about to happen, like we were all heading towards a cliff and no one was paying attention. And then Lilith came up to me with this offer, this promise of power, and all these amazing things. But I knew there was a catch. There's always a catch with deals like that, and I wasn't about to risk everything for some temporary thrill. So I made up an excuse and left. I didn't look back, didn't want to know what happened to those who stayed behind. But I can't shake off this feeling that I narrowly escaped something really messed up that night. And I can't help but wonder what happened to everyone else who got caught up in Lilith's twisted game. After I left that place, I couldn't shake off the feeling of dread. It was like a dark cloud hanging over me, making me question everything that had happened that night. Days passed, and I kept waiting for something to happen, like a message from Lilith or some kind of weird encounter. But nothing happened, and life went on like normal, or at least it seemed that way. But then, rumors started spreading. People who had stayed at that warehouse with Lilith were disappearing, and no one knew where they went. It was like they just vanished into thin air. The whispers got louder, talking about dark rituals and deals gone wrong. It was all so messed up, and I couldn't help but feel guilty for not doing more to warn them. At the same time, I felt relieved that I had left when I did. It was like a close call, and I couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if I had stayed. To this day, I still think about that night. It's like a scar that never quite heals, a reminder of how quickly things can spiral out of control. And it makes me wary of anything that seems too good to be true, because sometimes it really is. Looking back on that prom night and everything that followed, I've learned a few important things. One big lesson is to be careful with what we dive into, especially online. The dark web may seem exciting, but it can lead to real trouble. Trusting our gut feelings is another key takeaway. I had a feeling things weren't right, but I ignored it, and that was a mistake I won't repeat. Our instincts are there for a reason. Lastly, our choices have consequences, not just for us, but for those around us. Some people paid a heavy price for getting involved that night, and it's a reminder of how important it is to think things through before diving in. So, as I move forward, I'll remember these lessons. Life's full of mysteries, but not all of them are worth exploring. I'm a kickboxer, always looking for ways to boost my performance. Heard about these pills on the dark web that promise insane energy levels, so I took a chance and ordered them. When the package arrived, I was excited. Popped one of those pills, expecting a boost. And yeah, I got it. Felt like I could train forever, pushing myself to the limit. But then, things went south. Started feeling sick, heart racing, dizzy spells, you name it. Brushed it off at first, thinking it was just my body adjusting, but it got worse. One day, collapsed during training, ended up in the hospital. Turns out those pills were poison. Spent days hooked up to machines, fighting for my life. Looking back, I can't believe I took such a risk. Trusting pills from the dark web was a huge mistake, one that almost cost me everything. Being in the hospital was tough. Doctors were rushing around, trying to fix the mess those pills caused. It was scary, not knowing if I'd pull through. What hit me the hardest was the guilt. I took those pills thinking they'd help me train better, but they almost killed me. I couldn't shake off the regret, wishing I never got them. My family and friends were worried sick. Seeing their faces filled with worry made it worse. They tried to comfort me, but I knew I messed up big time. Lying there, hooked up to machines, I had a lot of time to think. I realized how desperate I was to improve, to take shortcuts instead of putting in the work. But I was also angry. Angry at whoever sold those pills, at the dark web for tricking people like me. It felt like a scam, and I fell right into it. As I got better and left the hospital, I made a promise to myself. No more risky shortcuts. I'll work hard, train smart, and never trust something shady again. It was a tough lesson, but I won't forget it. Leaving the hospital was a relief, but getting back to normal wasn't easy. Physically, I was healing, but mentally it was a struggle. Thinking about those pills made me sick. It was a constant reminder of how close I came to disaster. Returning to training felt scary. I had to start over, rebuilding myself from scratch. My coach and teammates were supportive, but they were worried. They didn't want to see me make the same mistake again. But slowly, I started to feel better. I took things one step at a time, focusing on the basics. It was hard work, but I was determined to get back on track. Along the way, I met others who went through similar things. We shared our stories and supported each other. It made me realize I wasn't alone in this. As I made progress, I promised myself to be more careful in the future. I'd never trust something shady again, and I'd use my experience to warn others about the risks. It wasn't just about physical recovery, it was about learning from my mistake and moving forward stronger than before. Going through all that taught me some important stuff, like I need to be super careful about where I get my supplements from. No more trusting sketchy websites or shady sellers. I also realized how crucial it is to listen to my body. Ignoring warning signs can lead to big trouble. Gotta take care of myself, inside and out. Then there's the lesson about not giving up. It's easy to throw in the towel when things get rough, but pushing through makes us tougher. I had to start from scratch, but I did it, and I'm stronger now. And lastly, sharing experiences is a game changer. Talking to others who went through similar stuff made me feel less alone. We gotta support each other, you know? Overall, scary as it was, I learned a ton. These lessons are gonna stick with me, guiding my decisions and hopefully helping others avoid the same mess I got into. Now that I've gone through all of that, I'm just looking to keep moving forward. I've learned a lot, and I'm not gonna let those lessons go to waste. First off, I'm being way more careful about what I put in my body. Making sure everything's legit and safe is my top priority now. It's all about looking out for myself and avoiding any unnecessary risks. I'm also paying more attention to what my body tells me. Ignoring those signals just leads to trouble, so I'm making sure to listen up and take action when needed. When it comes to training, I'm taking a smarter approach. It's not about pushing myself to the limit anymore. It's about training smart and staying healthy for the long haul. And as for sharing my story, I'm all for it. If I can help someone else avoid the same mistakes I made, then it's a win. We're all in this together, right? So that's where I'm at now, just taking it step by step, learning from what happened, and staying focused on what's ahead. So one night I got curious about the dark web. I mean, who hasn't wondered about that shady side of the internet, right? Anyway, I stumbled upon this creepy paranormal blog that gave me serious chills. As I scrolled through, I came across this story that hit me hard. It was about this guy whose grandma gave him an old Ouija board before she passed away. She swore it had some kind of supernatural mojo and told him to keep it safe. Now, here's where it gets real spooky. The guy, grieving for his grandma, decides to play the Ouija board on her grave. He wanted to talk to her one last time, get closure and all that. The scene they painted was straight out of a horror movie. It was nighttime, the moon was full, and the cemetery had this creepy vibe. The guy set up the Ouija board, lit some candles, and started trying to communicate with his grandma. The blog went into detail about how the planchette started moving on its own, spelling out messages that seemed to come from beyond the grave. The guy felt this icy chill, like something dark and angry was watching him. As I read on, I couldn't shake this feeling of dread. The story talked about how messed up the guy's life got after that night. Nightmares, weird stuff happening around him, the whole shebang. It was like he unleashed something bad by playing that Ouija board. I was glued to the screen, totally freaked out, but also weirdly fascinated. It made me think about the thin line between the living and the dead, and how messing with things we don't understand can have serious consequences. And little did I know, this was just the start of a wild ride into the paranormal heaven. So after reading that seriously spooky blog post, I couldn't just leave it at that. I had to know more, so I kept clicking through the blog's archives, diving deeper into this creepy rabbit hole. I found this other post that went into detail about what happened after the guy played with the Ouija board. It was like his life turned into a horror movie, and I couldn't look away. First off, he started hearing things, whispers in the dead of night that made his skin crawl. He'd be all alone, and suddenly it felt like someone or something was right there with him. Then there were the shadows. He'd see them moving, lurking in corners where there shouldn't be any shadows. It was like the darkness had a life of its own, and it was watching him. But the worst part? The nightmares. They weren't your run-of-the-mill bad dreams. No, these were next-level terrifying. He described them in such vivid detail, like he was reliving a nightmare every time he closed his eyes. He'd wake up in a cold sweat, heart pounding, feeling like there was something sinister in the room with him. It was like the Ouija board had opened a door to a realm of pure terror, and he couldn't escape it. As I read on, I couldn't help but feel this knot of fear tightening in my stomach. The blog painted such a clear picture of this guy's descent into madness, and it was like I was right there with him, feeling every ounce of his terror. But the blog didn't stop there. It hinted at even darker secrets, stuff that made my blood run cold. It was like a warning, telling me to be careful or risk falling into the same nightmare as the guy in the story. I was hooked, unable to look away from the screen despite the growing sense of dread. Each click took me deeper into this twisted world of supernatural horror, and little did I know, I was on the brink of uncovering something that would change everything. So as I kept clicking through the blog, things got real intense. I stumbled upon this post that went deep into the backstory of the Ouija board, like where it came from and what it's really about. According to the blog, the Ouija board isn't just some game. It's a legit way to talk to spirits. Like, people have been using it for ages to contact the dead. But here's the kicker. It's not all rainbows and butterflies. The blog talked about this curse tied to the Ouija board. Basically, if you mess around with it without being super careful, you're inviting trouble. Like bad spirit kind of trouble. Reading about that curse sent shivers down my spine. It was like stumbling onto a secret that should have stayed hidden. But the blog didn't hold back. It shared stories of folks who got messed up after playing with the Ouija board, like their lives took a nosedive into nightmare territory. But here's the thing that got me hooked. The blog wasn't just about scaring people. It was a warning, a heads up to anyone thinking about messing with the supernatural. It was like, hey, be careful, or you might end up in deep trouble. Even though the fear was creeping in, I couldn't stop reading. The blog had this way of pulling you in, making you want to uncover more, even if it meant facing some seriously spooky stuff. And little did I know, things were about to get a whole lot darker. So as I kept scrolling through the blog, things got real intense. There was this post that talked about what happened to people after they messed with the Ouija board. And let me tell you, it was straight up nightmare fuel. They described hearing weird noises after using the board, like stuff moving on its own or whispers in the dark. Some even claimed to see shadowy figures hanging around, like something out of a horror flick. But the story that got me the most was about this guy who played with the Ouija board in this old, abandoned place. He said he felt this creepy presence, like something was watching him from the shadows. And then the nightmare started. The blog also mentioned something interesting. It seemed like the Ouija board attracted bad vibes in places with a sketchy history. Like, if you played with it in a spot where bad stuff went down, you were asking for trouble. Reading all of this gave me major goosebumps. It was like the blog was warning me, like, hey, watch out, messing with this stuff isn't a joke. But even with the fear creeping in, I couldn't stop reading. It was like a car crash. I couldn't look away, even though I knew it was going to freak me out. So there I was, diving deeper into this world of paranormal chaos, not knowing what I'd uncover next. And let me tell you, what came next was beyond anything I could have imagined. I read through the final post on the blog, and let me tell you, it was like the climax of a scary movie. The blog warned about the dangers of messing with the Ouija board without knowing what you're doing. It shared stories of people whose lives got messed up after using the board, like they opened a door to something they couldn't handle. It was a stark reminder that dabbling in the supernatural isn't just a game. It's serious business with serious consequences. But what hit me hardest was this warning from a supposed expert. They basically said, stay away from the Ouija board if you know what's good for you. It was like a wake-up call, telling me to be careful with what I mess with online. After reading all that, I closed the blog feeling spooked but also kind of relieved. It was a wild ride into the unknown. But now I know to steer clear of things that could bring more trouble than I bargained for. And as I shut down my computer, I couldn't help but wonder what other creepy stuff is out there in the world, waiting to be discovered by unsuspecting internet explorers like me. But one thing's for sure, I'll think twice before clicking on anything too mysterious again. Alright, let me tell you about this crazy thing that happened to me. I got curious about the dark web, that sketchy part of the internet. So I went exploring and stumbled upon this site selling all sorts of weird stuff. One thing caught my eye, the Ouija board. I've always been into spooky stuff, so I thought, why not give it a try? I ordered it, thinking it would be a fun Halloween thing. When the package arrived, I was excited. I opened it up, and there it was, the Ouija board. It looked like a regular board game, nothing too fancy. But man, did it bring some serious weirdness into my life. I called up a couple of buddies, and we decided to test it out. We turned off the lights, lit some candles for that extra spooky vibe, and placed our fingers on the planchette. At first, nothing happened. We joked around, asking silly questions like, "Is anyone there?" But then the planchette started moving on its own. It spelled out words that freaked us out, names of people we didn't know, messages that seemed too personal to be random. After that night, things got strange in my house. Stuff would go missing and turn up in weird places. I'd hear footsteps when no one else was home, and sometimes I'd catch glimpses of something out of the corner of my eye, like a shadow that wasn't mine. I tried to brush it off, but it kept getting worse. I'd wake up to whispers in the dark, and the air felt heavy like something was weighing it down. Then, one night, I saw something moved in my room. Its eyes were glowing, and I felt this weird energy in the room like I've never felt before. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. I tried to get rid of the Ouija board, but it was like it had a grip on my life. The hauntings only got worse, and I started feeling like I was being watched all the time. So, yeah, ordering that Ouija board from the dark web was a huge mistake. It's like I invited a demon into my house, and now it won't leave me alone. It's like I opened a door to a world of horror, and I couldn't close it no matter how hard I tried. After that initial spooky session with the Ouija board, strange things started happening in my house. It was like the energy shifted, and I was living in a constant state of unease. One of the first signs was the footsteps. Every night I'd hear these soft footsteps outside my bedroom, as if someone was pacing back and forth. At first I thought it was just my imagination, but it became so frequent and real that I couldn't ignore it. Then came the growling. I was in the kitchen one evening, just minding my own business, when I heard this low, guttural growl coming from behind me. It was so distinct, so unsettling that I froze in place. I turned around slowly, expecting to see my dog or maybe even a wild animal that had somehow gotten inside. But there was nothing there, just an empty room filled with the echo of that chilling growl. But the most terrifying experience was when I saw the figure again. It happened late one night as I was getting ready for bed. I glanced over at the corner of my room, and there it was, a dark, shadowy figure with glowing eyes just staring at me. I felt this wave of pure terror wash over me, like I was in the presence of something evil. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. I was paralyzed with fear as the figure seemed to linger for what felt like an eternity before vanishing into thin air. It left me shaken to my core, questioning my sanity and the reality of what I had just witnessed. From that point on, things only got worse. Objects would move on their own. Doors would slam shut inexplicably, and I'd hear voices whispering in the dead of night. It was like my house had become a playground for malevolent forces, and I was caught in the middle of their twisted games. I tried everything to rid myself of this haunting, consulting paranormal experts, performing rituals, even considering moving out, but nothing worked. It was like the entity had latched onto me, feeding off my fear and growing stronger with each passing day. Living in that constant state of dread, never knowing what terrifying encounter awaited me next, took a toll on my mental and emotional well-being. I felt like I was losing myself to the darkness that had enveloped my life, and there was no escape in sight. And through it all, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I had unleashed something truly malevolent by dabbling in the dark web. The Ouija board was like a cursed artifact, a gateway to a realm of nightmares that I couldn't close. It was a lesson learned the hard way, a warning to never underestimate the power of the unknown. I contacted a group of paranormal investigators, hoping that their expertise and equipment could provide some answers. They conducted a thorough investigation of my home, setting up cameras, EVP, electronic voice phenomenon recorders, and other devices to capture any paranormal activity. During their investigation, they captured some unsettling footage. A shadowy figure darting across the screen, disembodied voices whispering faintly in the background, and strange anomalies that defied explanation. It was undeniable proof that something otherworldly was at play in my house. The investigators suggested conducting a seance to try and communicate with the entity directly. I was hesitant at first, fearing that it would only escalate the activity, but I was also desperate for answers. The seance was a chilling experience. We gathered around the Ouija board, candles flickering in the dimly lit room. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation as we called out to any spirits present, urging them to communicate with us. To my horror, the planchette started moving on its own, spelling out messages that sent shivers down my spine. The entity identified itself as a malevolent force that had been drawn to me through the Ouija board. It spoke of dark intentions and a desire to torment and possess. I was overcome with fear and panic, realizing the gravity of the situation I had gotten myself into. It was no longer just strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena. It was a battle against a powerful entity that sought to consume me. After the seance, the activity in my house escalated to dangerous levels. Objects were thrown across rooms, furniture moved violently, and I felt a constant sense of dread and oppression. I reached out to a priest for help, hoping that a religious intervention could banish the entity once and for all. The priest performed a series of blessings and prayers, invoking divine protection and cleansing the space of negative energy. For a while, it seemed like the entity had been banished. The house felt lighter, and the haunting ceased. But deep down I knew that the darkness still lingered, waiting for an opportunity to return and resume its reign of terror. And so, I lived in constant fear, always on edge, never knowing if the entity would come back to claim me as its own. The Ouija board had brought me nothing but anguish and torment. After the initial respite following the priest's intervention, a lingering sense of unease continued to pervade my life. It was like a shadow that refused to dissipate, a constant reminder of the malevolent entity's lingering presence. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. Night after night, I was plagued by vivid nightmares, visions of the entity's dark silhouette looming over me, its glowing eyes filled with malice. I would wake up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding in my chest, only to find myself alone in the stillness of the night. During the day, I tried to maintain a facade of normalcy, but the trauma of the haunting weighed heavily on my mind. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of a light bulb sent a jolt of fear through me, triggering memories of the entity's menacing presence. The slightest noise would send me into a panic, my nerves on edge, ready for the next supernatural manifestation. It was like living in a perpetual state of alertness, unable to relax or let my guard down. As the weeks turned into months, I sought solace in therapy. The therapist helped me unpack the trauma, guiding me through techniques to manage my anxiety, and cope with the lingering effects of the haunting. But despite the progress, the fear remained deeply rooted in my psyche. I also took proactive measures to protect myself and my home. I researched spiritual cleansing rituals, meticulously following guidelines to create a barrier against negative energies. I adorned my living space with crystals, believed to ward off malevolent entities, and recited protective prayers daily. Despite these efforts, the entity's presence continued to make itself known. Objects would inexplicably move, doors would slam shut, and I'd hear whispers echoing through empty rooms. It was like the entity was toying with me, asserting its dominance over my reality. I reached out to spiritual experts, seeking guidance on how to banish the entity once and for all. Rituals were performed, sacred symbols were drawn, and incantations were recited in an attempt to sever the entity's connection to my life. For a brief period, it seemed like the entity had been banished, and I allowed myself to hope for a future free from fear and uncertainty. But my relief was short-lived, as the entity returned with a vengeance, its presence more palpable and menacing than ever. I felt trapped, ensnared in a web of supernatural terror that refused to release its grip. The entity's malevolent energy permeated every corner of my existence, leaving me constantly on edge and filled with dread. And as I sit here, recounting the harrowing experiences that have haunted me for so long, I can't help but wonder if I'll ever find peace or if I'm destined to be tormented by the entity's presence indefinitely. It's a chilling thought, one that keeps me awake at night, haunted by the shadows that refuse to fade. Hello, fellow Redditors. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and the mess I got myself into because of the dark web. I'm a second year in college, and I study something connected to business. I've always been a good kid with good grades. My parents were always proud of me. I never did anything to make them mad. I always listened to them and respected them like any good kid would. So how did I end up with problems from the dark web? Just listen. A good friend of mine showed me how to access the dark web and taught me what exactly the dark web is. There is about 85% chance that the story I am about to tell you, you're not going to believe it. It was one sunny day after school when me and my friend were at the library, and we were bored so much. The exams were nearly over, and we had nothing to do. So, my friend, let's call him Brian, got an idea that tonight, instead of watching a movie like we would normally do, we should mess around on the dark web. I was kind of skeptical at first, but then the curiosity got the best of me. I said, why not, man? The exams were over. We were bored. What else can we do? So, I agreed. Later that night at about 9 p.m., he came to my apartment. He brought his laptop as well. This dude was a complete computer genius. He knew everything about computers. He knew how to access the deep web. He knew about VPNs. He knew about Tor. He knew how and what to search on the dark web. Basically, this dude knew everything. And of course, what friend would he be if he did not teach me the dangerous stuff he knew, right? So at first, we were just scrolling around, and we found nothing interesting. So after about an hour of scrolling around, we found some disturbing videos, disturbing images, and some legal and not so legal goods. But we were not interested in anything illegal. We were just here for the fun, and we were just messing around to pass the time. After scrolling for a long time, we were tired, so I went to the kitchen to grab a drink. And then I heard my friend yelling my name. He said, "Come here, come here." I found something interesting. Finally something interesting, man. You're not going to believe this. He found the game on the dark web. The dark web game claimed that it can summon spirits and monsters and even demons if you play it directly to your home. Of course, I did not believe in the supernatural. I was more of a science guy. I believed in science. I believe in what I could see. So anyway, this game was like a puzzle game where you needed to solve puzzles in order to pass on to the next level. This was all written in the description of the game. The only problem we had before we played the game was that we needed a webcam. A game on the dark web is sketchy enough. Now a webcam that is a really big red flag, my friend Brian said. So he passed the ball to me. He said, "If you are up for it, we will do it." I said, "Only scaredy cats are scared." So Brian said, "Okay, we'll do it." And we started to solve the puzzles one after one. The puzzles were not exactly that hard. Brian was better at solving stuff like this, so he was more into it. I mean, he was more focused on the game. So imagine this, you had the game in the middle of your screen, and you could see your webcam to your top right corner. I was constantly looking at our webcam, because I was scared. I'm not going to lie. And then it happened. Something passed behind us, something transparent and white, something like a spirit or a ghost. But I did not believe in ghosts, and I thought I was just seeing things, so I ignored it. But not totally. I kept on looking in the webcam while Brian was solving the puzzles. He solved about 23 of them, and there were about 38. Then it happened again. Something passed behind us again. So this time I touched Brian and told him, "Dude, something is happening." Something passed behind us a couple times. He said, "Don't screw with me, dude. I know you. You want to make jokes now. You want to scare me." Haha. Well, it is not going to work. Then I looked at him seriously and I said, "Dude, I'm not joking. I'm fucking not joking that it happened a few times. The first few times ignored it, but this is real." He said, "Come on, dude. It can't be right. I mean, ghosts don't exist, do they? We don't believe in that crap, do we?" I said, "I don't know about you, but I think we should stop this game." Brian was not with me on this, and he said, "I will finish this game no matter what." And while we were kind of arguing in the kitchen, something fell. In the kitchen, a few plates and a few glasses fell. We heard breaking sounds. We heard breaking glass sounds. We got so fucking scared. Brian got scared. Like he got extremely scared. He easily got scared. I have known him since we were little. So I told Brian we should check it out. He said, no, man. I'm out of here. We should run." I said, "Dude, chill. It can be a coincidence, it's not that unusual for something to fall just like that." So we went to check it out, and like I said, there were only the glasses and the plates that were broken, and there was nothing in the kitchen. So I said to Brian, "If you're that big of a man, let's finish the game." Brian was always easy to provoke, so he wanted to finish the game. So when we solved the game, all the puzzles, we got thanks for playing on our screen, and got the recording from our webcam while we were playing. Everything was recorded. The sounds, the video, everything. So we skipped the recording to the part where the dishes fell, and in that moment, something passed on the camera to the left where the kitchen was. When we saw that, we kind of got scared a little bit. So that night we slept at Brian's place. Then, in the next few days, I started noticing doors opened, and I knew I closed them. The items I left in one place, I could find them in another, so I want you, Reddit, to tell me, is something paranormal happening in my house? And is my house haunted, or am I just imagining things? Anyway, thanks for listening to my story. It all began on one of those nights where I found myself aimlessly surfing the internet. The kind of night where you're bored, but not quite tired enough to sleep. That's when I stumbled upon a peculiar thread in a forum that I usually never visited. The thread was titled something like Hidden Connections Dark Web Reunions. Now, I've always been intrigued by the dark web. Not in the sense of doing anything shady, but more out of curiosity about what lies beyond the surface internet. This thread, however, felt different. It wasn't about illegal activities or shady deals. It was about people finding lost connections, particularly family members, through unconventional means. As I scrolled through the comments, I came across a particularly captivating story. A user claimed to have found their long-lost sibling through a series of events that sounded almost too surreal to be true. They mentioned a mysterious website that acted as a bridge between separated family members, a digital oasis in the vast, murky sea of the dark web. Initially, I brushed it off as just another internet tale, perhaps someone's creative writing exercise. But the more I read, the more I felt a strange tug at my heartstrings. You see, I had a brother whom I hadn't spoken to in years. Family disagreements had driven us apart, and despite occasional thoughts about him, I never actively tried to reconnect. The idea of finding him through this obscure digital realm felt both thrilling and terrifying. Thrilling because it offered a glimmer of hope, a chance to mend broken ties. Terrifying because, well, it's the dark web we're talking about, a place known for its anonymity and unpredictability. Yet, despite the doubts swirling in my mind, I couldn't shake off the curiosity. I wanted to know more about this supposed website, this beacon of reunion amidst the shadows. And so, with a mix of apprehension and determination, I began my journey into the depths of the dark web, guided by the faint hope of finding my brother once again. Entering the dark web was easy for me, since I already knew how to. I will not tell you how to enter it for your own safety. The usual rules of the internet seem to blur, replaced by a sense of caution and anonymity. I navigated through layers of encryption and obscure URLs, each click feeling like a step further into the unknown. The forum thread had hinted at a specific website, one that purportedly facilitated reunions between separated family members. Finding it was no easy task. It required sifting through hidden directories, deciphering coded messages, and trusting links that could lead to either a dead end or something far more sinister. After what felt like hours of virtual spelunking, I finally stumbled upon a website that matched the descriptions I had read. It was minimalist, devoid of flashy graphics or enticing ads. Just a simple interface with a single prompt. Enter your query. My heart raced as I typed in the only query that mattered to me. Lost sibling. The screen blinked for a moment, and then a new window opened, displaying a list of encrypted messages. Each message seemed like a puzzle waiting to be solved, a mix of letters, numbers, and symbols. I realized that this was no ordinary search engine. It operated on a different level, requiring users to decode messages to reveal their true meaning. It was both exhilarating and nerve-wracking, like solving a riddle with high stakes. I spent countless hours deciphering messages, trying different encryption methods, and exploring hidden pathways within the website. It was a meticulous process, filled with dead ends and moments of frustration. But amidst the chaos of the dark web, I felt a sense of purpose driving me forward. And then, one fateful night, I stumbled upon a message that sent a jolt of disbelief through me. It was a cryptic clue that seemed to hint at a location, a place from my past that only my brother and I would know about. It felt like a sign, a beacon of hope lighting up the darkness. With renewed determination, I embarked on a real-world journey, following the clues from the dark web into the tangible world, all in pursuit of finding my long-lost brother. The clue from the dark web led me to a small town nestled in the countryside, a place filled with memories of my childhood. It was surreal to be back after so many years, chasing shadows of the past in hopes of a reunion. I retraced familiar streets, visited old haunts, and reminisced about moments long gone. The clue had mentioned a specific landmark, a tree with a distinctive carving that only my brother and I knew about. Finding it was like finding a needle in a haystack, but I was determined to unravel this mystery. Days turned into weeks as I combed through the town, talking to locals, searching for any trace of my brother. Some were helpful, sharing stories of the past and offering words of encouragement. Others were more skeptical, wary of a stranger digging into old secrets. But I pressed on, fueled by the memories of a bond that had once been strong. I visited places we used to frequent, hoping to trigger a long-forgotten connection. And then, just when I was beginning to lose hope, I received a cryptic message on the dark web. It was from an anonymous user claiming to have information about my brother's whereabouts. Skeptical yet hopeful, I followed the instructions in the message, leading me to a secluded spot on the outskirts of town. There, I met a hooded man who spoke in hushed tones, revealing details that sent shivers down my spine. They knew about our childhood adventures, the secrets we shared, and the rift that tore us apart. It was as if they had been watching us all along, waiting for this moment of reckoning. The man handed me a piece of paper with an address scribbled on it, along with a warning to tread carefully. They spoke of dangers lurking in the shadows, of hidden truths that could unravel everything I knew. With a mix of fear and determination, I set out towards the address, unsure of what awaited me but driven by the hope of reuniting with my brother at last. So, there I was, standing in front of the address I got from that mysterious man. The neighborhood was quiet, like a forgotten corner of town. The house itself looked worn out, not fancy at all. I knocked on the door, and after a while it creaked open. Inside it was dimly lit, with old furniture covered in dust. A man stood there, and as they stepped into the light, I saw it was my brother. We hadn't seen each other in years, and the moment was surreal. We sat down, both unsure of what to say at first. It was awkward, but also comforting to be in each other's presence again. We talked about everything, from our childhood memories to what we'd been up to all these years. My brother shared his journey, the struggles he faced, and how he ended up in this old house. It wasn't easy for him, and hearing his story made me realize how much we had both missed out on. But despite the challenges, there was a sense of relief in finally being together again. We laughed, we cried, and we talked until the early hours of the morning. It was a bittersweet reunion, filled with emotions that words can't fully describe. As the sun rose outside, casting a warm glow through the windows, I knew that this was the start of a new chapter for us. Finding my brother through the dark web was unexpected, but it brought us back together in a way I never thought possible. The next morning felt different. My brother and I had spent the night catching up, sharing stories, and just being together. It was like we hadn't missed a beat, despite all those years apart. As the sun rose, casting a warm glow through the windows, we sat quietly, sipping on coffee. There was a sense of peace in the air, a feeling that everything was going to be okay. We talked about our plans moving forward, about staying in touch and not letting time slip away from us again. It was a promise we both intended to keep. Before I left, I thanked him for reaching out to me through the dark web. It was a risky move, but it brought us back together, and for that I was grateful. Walking away from that old house, I felt a mix of emotions. There was relief, knowing that we had finally found each other again. And there was hope, a sense of a new beginning. The dark web, with all its mysteries and dangers, had led me to this moment of reunion. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of places, there can be light and connection. So as I stepped back into the world, I carried with me a renewed appreciation for family and the power of never giving up hope. My journey through the dark web had come full circle, and I was ready to embrace this new chapter with my brother by my side. Let me share with you the unsettling story of the toy I bought for my baby from the dark web, unaware of the horrors it would unleash upon my family. It all began innocently enough. I was scrolling through the dark web marketplace, looking for unique and affordable items. As a new parent, I was always on the lookout for toys and gadgets that would entertain and stimulate my child. That's when I came across a listing that caught my eye. A vintage-looking doll with intricate details and a promise of interactive features. The seller claimed it was a limited edition item, only available on the dark web, and guaranteed to bring joy to any child. Intrigued by the novelty and the reasonable price, I decided to make the purchase. Little did I know that this seemingly harmless transaction would set off a chain of events that would haunt me for the rest of my days. The doll arrived a few days later in nondescript packaging. It looked exactly as described in the listing, a charming little toy with a painted smile and glassy eyes that seemed to follow you wherever you went. I placed it in my baby's nursery, thinking nothing of it at the time. But soon strange things started happening. My baby, who was usually cheerful and easygoing, became fussy and restless whenever near the doll. She would cry uncontrollably, reaching out as if trying to avoid the toy. At first I dismissed it as a phase, attributing her behavior to teething or sleep disturbances. But as days passed, her distress seemed to intensify whenever the doll was around. It was as if the toy exerted a malevolent influence, casting a shadow over our once peaceful home. I noticed other odd occurrences as well. Objects would inexplicably move or disappear. Strange noises echoed in the dead of night, and an oppressive atmosphere hung in the air, suffocating and unsettling. I tried to rationalize it, blaming it on stress or lack of sleep. But deep down, I couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something terribly wrong with that doll, something sinister lurking beneath its innocent facade. And so, with a growing sense of dread, I embarked on a journey to uncover the truth behind the cursed object I had unwittingly brought into my home. As days turned into weeks, the unsettling presence of the doll began to permeate every aspect of our lives. My baby's distress only escalated, her cries becoming more frantic and inconsolable whenever near the cursed toy. It was as if the doll emitted an aura of malevolence that preyed on her innocence. But it wasn't just her behavior that raised alarms. Strange occurrences started to unfold in our home, subtle at first, but escalating in intensity, as if to amplify the growing unease. Objects would inexplicably move from their usual places. Unsettling noises echoed through the halls in the dead of night, and an oppressive atmosphere settled over our once peaceful abode like a thick fog. I tried to rationalize it, attributing the phenomena to stress or lack of sleep. But deep down, a gnawing sense of dread gnawed at my mind, telling me that there was something inherently wrong with that doll. One sleepless night, driven by a mix of curiosity and fear, I ventured into the nursery under the dim glow of the nightlight. The doll sat innocently on the shelf, its painted eyes seemingly watching my every move. With trembling hands, I picked it up and examined it closely, searching for any clues or abnormalities that could explain the growing malevolence emanating from it. That's when I noticed it. A faint etching on the back of its porcelain neck, barely discernible unless under scrutiny. It was a series of cryptic symbols, ancient and foreboding, etched into the very fabric of the doll's being. Each stroke seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy, sending shivers down my spine. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart as I fetched a magnifying glass to inspect the symbols more closely. They were unlike anything I had ever seen, a language of the arcane that hinted at a dark and twisted history. My mind raced with possibilities, each more disturbing than the last. Unable to decipher the meaning of the symbols, I turned to the only place that might hold answers: the dark web. Navigating through shadowy forums and obscure chat rooms, I delved into discussions about cursed objects, ancient rituals, and the occult. What I uncovered sent chills down my spine. There were tales of cursed dolls and the havoc they wreaked upon unsuspecting victims, stories of souls trapped within inanimate vessels, and warnings about meddling with forces beyond human comprehension. Armed with newfound knowledge and a growing sense of dread, I delved deeper into the doll's origins. I learned of its dark history, tied to an ancient cult that practiced forbidden rituals and invoked malevolent entities. It was a doll of darkness, a conduit for the horrors of the beyond. But knowledge alone couldn't quell the growing terror that had taken root in our home. The doll's influence seemed to intensify, feeding on the fear and uncertainty it caused. It was as if the curse was a living entity, thriving on our suffering and torment. And as I sat in the nursery, surrounded by shadows and haunted by the doll's unblinking gaze, I knew that I had unwittingly invited a darkness into our lives that would consume us if left unchecked. The journey to unravel the secrets of the cursed object had only just begun, and little did I know the horrors that awaited as I delved deeper into the abyss. The discovery of the cryptic symbols and the dark history surrounding the doll plunged me into a state of paranoia and desperation. I became obsessed with unraveling the mysteries that seemed to emanate from this cursed object, even as the doll's influence continued to manifest in increasingly disturbing ways. My baby's distress reached a fever pitch, her once bright eyes now clouded with fear whenever in the presence of the doll. It was heartbreaking to witness, and yet I couldn't bring myself to part with the object that seemed to hold a sinister grip over our lives. The strange occurrences in our home grew more frequent and pronounced. Objects would move with purpose, as if guided by an unseen force. Shadows danced in the corners of my vision, and whispers echoed through empty rooms when no one else was around. I sought solace in rituals and remedies, desperate to break the curse that bound us to this malevolent entity. I burned sage, sprinkled salt, and recited incantations gleaned from ancient texts, but the doll remained unaffected, its presence looming like a specter in our home. As my obsession deepened, I turned to the dark web once again, delving into even darker corners in search of answers. I stumbled upon stories of cursed dolls that drove their owners to madness, tales of possession and malevolent spirits that lurked within inanimate objects. It was during one of these late-night forays into the depths of the dark web that I received a message, a cryptic invitation to a secluded location where the secrets of the doll's curse would be revealed. Driven by desperation and a thirst for answers, I followed the instructions in the message, venturing into the unknown with trepidation gnawing at my insides. The location led me to an abandoned house on the outskirts of town, its dilapidated facade a stark contrast to the darkness that lay within. Inside, I was greeted by a hooded figure, their features obscured by shadows. They spoke in hushed tones, revealing the true nature of the doll's curse, a pact forged with a malevolent entity in exchange for power and immortality. The figure warned me of the dangers that lay ahead, of the insidious nature of the curse that bound the doll to our lives. They spoke of sacrifices and rituals, of a darkness that hungered for souls and thrived on fear. Terrified yet determined, I begged for a way to break the curse, to free my family from the grip of this malevolent force. The figure offered a glimmer of hope, a ritual of purification that required utmost resolve and sacrifice. And so, armed with newfound knowledge and a sense of purpose, I embarked on a harrowing journey to rid our lives of the cursed doll's influence once and for all. But little did I know the horrors that awaited as I delved deeper into the abyss of darkness. Armed with the knowledge bestowed upon me by the hooded figure from the dark web, I embarked on a perilous path towards breaking the curse that had ensnared my family. The ritual of purification was our last hope, a desperate bid to rid ourselves of the doll's malevolent influence once and for all. The instructions were intricate and daunting, requiring precise timing and unwavering resolve. I gathered the necessary materials, candles, herbs, and incense imbued with protective properties, and prepared for the ritual with a mix of fear and determination. The night of the ritual was shrouded in an eerie silence, the air thick with anticipation and apprehension. I lit the candles and arranged the items according to the instructions, creating a circle of protection around myself and the cursed doll. As I began to recite the incantations, a palpable energy filled the room, crackling with the promise of liberation or destruction. Shadows danced on the walls, and whispers echoed in the darkness, as if unseen entities watched with bated breath. With each word spoken, I felt a surge of power and dread coursing through my veins. The ritual demanded sacrifice, not just of physical offerings, but of my own sanity and courage. It was a test of wills, a battle of light against darkness that waged within the confines of that ancient ritual. As the incantations reached their crescendo, I felt a shift in the air, a subtle change that hinted at the forces at play. The doll, once inert and lifeless, seemed to tremble in response, its painted eyes flickering with an otherworldly glow. But just as victory seemed within reach, the ritual took an unexpected turn. Shadows coalesced into sinister shapes, and a voice, cold and mocking, filled the room. It was the same voice I had heard in the nursery, the voice of the entity bound to the cursed doll. It taunted me, promising eternal torment and suffering for daring to defy its hold. Fear gripped my heart, threatening to overwhelm me, but I pressed on, fueled by a desperate need to protect my family from this abomination. With a final surge of willpower, I completed the ritual, channeling all my resolve into banishing the curse that had plagued us for so long. And then, in a blinding flash of light, it was done. The room fell silent, the oppressive atmosphere lifting like a heavy fog. I looked at the doll, half expecting it to spring to life with renewed malice, but it remained inert, its cursed influence seemingly broken. Exhausted but relieved, I collapsed to the floor, tears of relief and exhaustion streaming down my face. The ordeal was over, or so I thought. Little did I know that the true horror was yet to come as the consequences of meddling with dark forces began to unfold. In the aftermath of the ritual, a heavy silence settled over our home, broken only by the sound of my ragged breaths. The cursed doll lay before me, its once malevolent presence now subdued, but the sense of unease lingered like a ghost haunting the shadows. For a brief moment, I allowed myself to hope that the nightmare was finally over, that we could move on from the horrors that had plagued us. But reality had other plans, as the consequences of tampering with dark forces began to unfold in ways I could never have anticipated. Strange phenomena continued to occur, albeit with less intensity than before. Objects still moved on their own, whispers echoed through empty rooms, and a sense of being watched lingered in the air like a silent specter. But it was the dreams that unsettled me the most, vivid, haunting nightmares that seemed to blur the lines between reality and illusion. I would wake in a cold sweat, my heart pounding with primal fear, unable to shake off the lingering sense of dread that clung to my waking hours. And then there were the whispers, faint, almost imperceptible at first, but growing louder and more insistent with each passing day. It was as if the entity bound to the cursed doll refused to be banished, its presence lingering like a shadowy specter in the corners of my mind. I sought answers once again, this time delving into ancient texts and forbidden knowledge in a desperate bid to understand what had been unleashed upon us. The truth was chilling. The curse was not easily broken, its tendrils reaching beyond the confines of the doll to ensnare anyone who dared to defy its hold. Haunted by visions and plagued by doubt, I found myself teetering on the brink of madness. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, and I questioned my own sanity as the whispers grew louder, their words a sinister echo of the entity's malevolent intentions. It was a battle for control, a struggle to reclaim our lives from the darkness that threatened to consume us. But with each passing day, it became increasingly clear that our ordeal was far from over, that the curse was not so easily vanquished. And so, I write this as a warning to others who may be tempted by the allure of the dark web and the secrets it holds. Some things are better left untouched, some mysteries better left unsolved. For in delving too deep, we risk awakening forces beyond our understanding, forces that hunger for souls and thrive on the chaos they unleash. As for me, I continue to grapple with the aftermath of that fateful purchase, haunted by the cursed doll and the darkness it brought into our lives. The journey to rid ourselves of its influence continues, a relentless battle against a foe that refuses to be defeated. I pray that one day we may find peace and solace, free from the malevolent forces that still linger in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to strike once again. But until then, I remain vigilant, wary of the ever-present threat that lurks just beyond the veil of our reality.